just needed to see ya, see ya, see ya, see ya, see ya.
Hello guys, and welcome back to my channel for another DIY. For this week's tutorial, I'm finally going to be showing you guys how I make my cloud puffy off the shoulder crop top. So let's go ahead and get right on into it. And you guys already know that for this tutorial, I'll be using the Universal Yarn Bamboo Bloom line. And the colorway of this yarn is Sea Breeze. Each of these skeins comes at about 154 yards, and it's classified as a 5 bulky weight yarn. And for this tutorial, I'll actually be showing you how to make this in a size large. So for the size large, I'm going to use about 1.5 skeins. The hook size that I'll be grabbing is the 5.5mm hook. And just in case, the very last thing that I might need to use is a darning needle. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my yarn and get started. To begin, I'm going to start off with my usual slip knot. And for this tutorial, I actually need to begin with a foundation half double crochet. You can begin this project with regular chains, but it kind of makes it a little bit easier to see your stitches when you already have a foundation. So to make that foundation half double crochet, I'm going to begin by chaining 3. So 1, 2, and 3. Now that I have those 3, I'm going to yarn over and insert my hook into that very first stitch. I'm going to yarn over again and pull up a loop. With 3 on my hook, I'm going to yarn over and pull through 1. And with 3 on again, I'll yarn over and pull through all 3. So there's my very first foundation half double crochet. To make our next stitch, I'm going to yarn over and insert my hook into the very bottom of that first stitch. So I'm going to bring my hook right here, yarn over and pull up a loop. With 3 on the hook, I'll yarn over and pull through 1. And with 3 on again, yarn over and pull through all 3. So now I have my second little half double crochet right there. From here I can yarn over and insert my hook into the very bottom of the previous stitch. Yarn over, pull up a loop. With 3 on, yarn over, pull through 1, yarn over, pull through 3. So now you can see I'm starting to build up on that foundation chain. And now we're starting to get to that thick part of the yarn. Just make sure that you continue to work very loose. Keep your tension very soft. And now you can kind of see that foundation chain coming together. You'll want to create your foundation chain just long enough that it's able to wrap around the middle part of your shoulders. Since I'm going for a size large here, I'm going to create a foundation chain of about 106 stitches. If you're a size small, I would suggest about 86 stitches, and if you're a size medium, possibly 96 stitches. But once you think that your chain is long enough, make sure that you double check and wrap it around your shoulders and make sure that it's nice and snug around your body. Alright, so I'm returning and I have finished up my 106 foundation half double crochets. And now at this point I need to attach the yarn so that I can begin working in a round. Because this yarn is so funky, if we had began with a regular chain, it would have been way too difficult to figure out which side was the right side, if it was twisted and turned in the wrong direction. But because we use a foundation chain, you can clearly see which way is the right way, and you can easily tell if the work has gotten twisted. So at this point, I'm just double checking to make sure that my yarn is not twisted up. And from this point, I'm going to join my work in the round by slip stitching into that chain 2 or chain 3 space that we first began with. So if you can see right here, I have that chain 3 space that I first turned into a half double crochet. And I'm going to slip stitch right into that very first stitch. I'm going to go ahead and insert my hook into that stitch, yarn over, and slip stitch the 2 ends together. And now we're officially working in the round. So to begin row 2, I'm going to chain 2 And now I'm just going to work with regular half double crochets into the top of each stitch. So I'm going to carry that yarn with me. I'm going to yarn over, go into the first loop, pull up a stitch, yarn over, and pull through all 3. And there's my very first stitch in the round. Again, I'm going to yarn over and find my very next stitch, insert through the top, pull up a loop, yarn over, and pull through all 3. And just a quick reminder, even though we're working with the thinner part of the yarn, I'm still going to continue to work very loosey-goosey with it. I have practically no tension on my hand, and even when you get to the chunkier parts, stay nice and loose with your tension. And again, here I come up on a chunkier part of the wool. I'm going to stay very loose and make sure I pull up enough of the yarn so that I have enough space to work with. Because if you stay too tight on your tension, this wool section is going to become way too tight, and then when you come back around for your next round, you won't be able to insert into the top loops. So just make sure you stay very loose. If you're a beginner to crochet, working with this yarn might be a little bit difficult for your very first project, but the end result is absolutely stunning. To have this variation in texture really gives the top a little extra pizzazz. So I'm just going to continue to add on stitches, and I'll meet you back here at the end of my row 2. Alright, so I'm back here at the end of row 2, and I have finished up with my very last stitch, and now I need to connect it in the round again. So now I'm just going to slip stitch into that chain 2 space. So I'm going to insert, pull through, and pull through. And that is the end of my row 2. And as you can see, those chunky pieces are coming along just nice. And now to begin row 3, I'm going to follow those same steps from row 2. So I'm going to chain 2. And again for row 3, I'm just going to repeat those same exact steps and place 1 half double crochet into the top of each stitch. So looking here at my first stitch, place a half double, no increases, no decreases, just plain old half double crochets. And I'll meet you back here at the end of the 3rd row. Alright, so now I'm going to go ahead and add on rows 3 and 4 in the exact same pattern that I've shown you for row 2, and I'll meet you back here at the end of my 4th row. Alright, so I finally made it back here to the end of my 4th row. I'm going to slip stitch into that chain 2 space. And from here, I'm going to put down my work and do a little bit of math. Alright, so the way that I'm working this piece is that I'm starting from the top down. So up here is going to be my shoulder pieces, and now I need to begin to work on the separation for the armpit holes and then the rest of the crop top. So next, in order to create the hole for our arms, I've gone ahead and pulled out a few stitch markers because these are going to help us to keep our place. With my work folded in half, I'm going to start at one corner and count out anywhere between 10 to 15 stitches and place my stitch marker through both sides of the piece. So here at this corner, I'm going to count on this side first. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. And for me, 12 seems like a good stopping point. I'm going to say that this is roughly 3.5 to 4 inches in from the edge of my piece. And I'm just going to pinch the 2 panels together and go ahead and weave my stitch marker through not only this first panel, but also the second. But this stitch marker is going to mark the point at which I'm going to connect my chain. And you'll see what I mean when I get there. So moving on to the other side of my piece, I'm going to pinch here at the corner and count out a matching 12 stitches. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. So right here's my 12th. I'm going to pinch and make sure that I have the same amount of stitches on the other edge. And now I'm going to weave my stitch marker through the first panel and through the back panel. I'm going to head and close that up. And now I can start working on the 5th row of my top. All right, so now to begin row 5, I can chain my 2 like normal. And up until the stitch marker, I'm just going to work my regular half double crochets. So I'm just going to go into the top of each stitch again and work like normal until I hit my stitch marker. All right, so now I'm approaching that infamous stitch marker. All right, so I've gone ahead and worked up that very last stitch up until my stitch marker. And from this point, I need to create a chain that is going to reach from this panel to the back panel. So if you guys can remember from just a few moments ago, I've sectioned off a total of 12 stitches on the front side and 12 stitches on my back panel. So that results in about 24 stitches. And usually our shoulders are a little bit wider than our chest. So instead of chaining 24 in total, I'm going to chain about 18 stitches. So I'm actually going to go into this stitch and add one more half double crochet right where that stitch marker is at. And from this point, I can chain my 18 stitches. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18. So there's my 18th stitch. I'm going to flip my piece to the back side and find the other point at which my stitch marker has gone through. I'm going to insert my hook into that stitch and slip stitch it together. And now I can go ahead and remove that stitch marker to get it out of the way. So this little chain section right here is going to become the body portion of our crop top. And after we slip stitch that back panel, I can turn my work and begin working on the back side of our top. So from this point, I'm going to go right back into that stitch and add a half double crochet. And again, just continue to add half double crochets until you reach your next stitch marker. All right, so I'm coming up on that second stitch marker again. And now I'm going to follow that same exact process from earlier. Into that stitch with the stitch marker, I'm going to add a half double crochet. And from this point, I'm going to chain my 18. And here is my 18th stitch. I'm going to go back to that stitch marker and find the stitch on the other side of my panel and slip stitch right into that stitch. So from this point, I can remove my stitch marker again, make it a little bit easier to see. And here's going to be the other side of my body panel. From this point, I can kind of turn my work and continue to place my half double crochets. So again, I'm going to go right back into that stitch where we slip stitched, add a half double crochet, and work until the end of the round. All right, back here at the end of my round, it's a little bit hard to see, but here's my very last stitch. I'm going to add that half double crochet, and this huge chunky section here is my chain 2. So I'm going to slip stitch to that chain 2 And that is the end of my 5th row. So I'm going to go ahead and place my work down so I can show you what we're working with at this point. Alright, so as you've seen earlier, this section right here is my shoulder piece. And now that we have these 2 little chain sections all connected for us, I'm going to work my half double crochets into this piece like normal. And once I reach my chain, I'm going to begin to place my stitches on the chain. So once I get to this point, I'm no longer working on my shoulder section. I'm going to begin building on my body. So I'm just going to go ahead and show you what that looks like. Just like normal, I'm going to chain my 2 at the start of the row, yarn over, and go into my very first stitch, and work my half double crochets. Oops. I'm going to work a few more stitches. I'm going to go into this stitch right here. I'm going to go into this spot right here. And now I can begin working on my chain section. So I'm just going to go through the top of both of those loops. And you've guessed it, I'm just going to continue to work my half double crochets into this chain and work my way across until I get to the back side of my work. So again, just take your time and work slow and make sure that you're picking up all the right stitches. I'm back here again at the end of my chain. I'm going to finish my last half double crochet. So here's what that first chain piece is looking like. From this point, I'm going to go right into this very next stitch and continue working those half double crochets across this back panel. Alright, and now I've made it back to this other chain. Finish up my last few half double crochets, and now right into this very first chain I can begin working my first row here. Alright, and now I've reached the end of my second chain section and go back to working my half double crochets in this regular panel piece right here. And of course, just work the row like normal until you hit the end of your round. Alright, and now I'm back at the end of my 6th row. I can slip stitch into my chain 2 space, and that's what we have so far. Alright, so again, just to clarify what's going on here, I have my shoulder section here, and now I've just worked my first row into the body section on these chains. And now for the rest of the top, I'm just going to be working in this new round that I've created. So at this point, it's up to you to determine how many rows you want to add. I think I'm going to go for about another 8 or 9 rows, and I'll meet you back here at the end of my project. Alright, so I am back for one final update, and as you can see, I have worked up the entirety of this top. So like I said earlier, I continued to work in the round, placing 1 half double crochet into the top of each stitch From this armhole section to the very bottom of my work, I have a total of 15 rows of those half double crochets worked up. So right here at the very end of my 15th row, I have already slip stitched to the end of the row. And now I can pull my yarn through and make a knot. And now all that's left for me to do is weave in this last little tail at the bottom of my work. And I'm so happy that I have finally finished up this entire top in a size large in the course of one day. This is a feat for me, but this is absolutely stunning. This top is extremely lightweight and stretchy, and I think it's a perfect piece for summertime.